I'm very interested to see how chat reacts to that one. We see greed across the board again. I think Offma and Lucy kind of threw away a great opportunity to get a 1-up, a 1-0 on a pretty good team of SSP and Aviator, right? You don't get many opportunities like that to go ahead against a group of players like SSP and Aviator very often. We do have 2 economy spells and 1 offensive spell, though the offensive spell is a little bit iffy. We've got Loan, which makes you a little bit stronger on 11, right? But takes away your income, give you 200 gold and negative 34 income. Lizard Army, which gives you a lizard on 11, 2 lizards on 12, and 3 lizards on 13. And you get the extra 40 Mythium on 11. It's a pretty neat setup. Pretty neat setup if I do say so myself. And then we've got Creditor, right? So if a team sends on 10, we can very well see Creditor coming out. If a team sends on 11, we've got Loan or something of the sort. But we do see a double treasure hunt out of SSP here. And we see a Bone Crusher out of Aviator. A Zeus start out of Lucy. And a double Atom start. So, we'll kind of see how this goes. I think Aviator going 5 worker already makes a lot of sense with his role. He's got a Green Devil, which can make him very strong on 2. Very easy hold for a Bone Crusher. We see Lucy and Offma both going 5 worker. I think makes pretty good sense if they got sends last, right? You get a send on 1 with either Zeus or a Adams build, and you're always going 5 worker. We do see SSP double treasure hunting again and placing down the Liquid Smoke Aqua. Which is pretty nice. Gives him a pretty free hold to a 20 send here. Odd aggro split. Usually you want a little bit going to the Aqua. Did SSP build that wrong? No, it was built right. Traditionally 1 or 2 will go on the Aqua and then it's an easy hold, but weirdly enough it just didn't get any split aggro. Pro Leak. Huh. Interesting. I'd have to imagine that's just a weirdness to the aggro there, RNG. That being said, Aviator is on 6 worker now. SSP still on 2 with the double treasure hunt. Kind of makes sense. He does get the Fire Elemental here. So Fire Elemental, he'll double treasure hunt again. He does get the 40 out this wave. So he's not really necessarily behind. We do see a Lizard and a DT coming out of SSP. We see Aviator getting a Fire Archer. That should be enough to hold. It'll be close. A Tempest coming out, and then a Peewee coming out, respectively, for Offma and Lucy. The DT, I don't think will be enough to get through the build of Lucy. Excuse me, Offma. Excuse me. Lucy should hold with a Peewee upgraded to a Vet on this wave with a Zeus. It's close, but he will hold. If not hold, very, very much Pro League. So he will be pretty good there. We do see Aviator getting just Snails, which will Pro League, it looks like. 17%. Not a huge deal. SSP going to 4 worker now finally with the double treasure hunt, so he's starting to get his worker back up. He's extremely good on these next 2 waves. He can literally double treasure hunt again while pushing a worker, because now on the next 2 waves he's got basically free reign to hold with the Fire Elemental for 5 being a good damage source, so long as he has these. I'm surprised he doesn't double treasure hunt here. Lucy only sending a snail. You easily hold just the snail. I guess his value looks a lot worse than it is. Should have definitely gone for a double treasure hunt in my opinion here, but I guess SSP is trying to play on the safe side, right? Doesn't want to leak. Kind of see what happens. SSP is going to have close to 100 send on wave 4 if he does want it. No leak out of Lucy with the Zeus getting a resend. That's actually quite surprising to me. Very good job out of Lucy to hold there with the 7 worker push on the Zeus. We do see a send out of SSP here, double DT, another treasure hunt again. We see a lizard coming out, going into Lucy. Aviator deciding on a green devil here. I think makes a lot of sense. No send into SSP here, so a single treasure hunt again is probably fine. Though, how does Lucy fare here? A lot of arcane defense for this setup. Looks like a pro leak, you know, 2-3 creeps and the lizard. As a Zeus player, you take that every day. We will be getting some. We'll be getting some leaks down to King. Not too big of a deal. For Offma and Lucy. That being said, pretty close overall game so far. Nothing too crazy. Offma and Lucy do have quite a bit of gold, quite a bit of mythium saved up, I should say, which would kind of explain why Lucy has not been pushing off these sends realistically. If you're getting sent frequently with something like Zeus, you could easily be 10 workers at this point. But with no sends coming in, no sends coming in out of Lucy and Offma, you can see the mythium totals coming up pretty high here. Almost 100 on Offma and almost 160 on Lucy. Going to be kind of an interesting one. Do we see a big send here out of Lucy onto wave 7? We could easily get a Mimic out here by Lucy. I think that would quite easily get through SSP. We could see something like double Brute out of Offma. Kind of depends on when they want to go. They obviously got to send again here, at least Lucy did. So we do see the Mimic and double Brute. I called that one correctly. So we do see a Holy Avenger drop by SSP. That is going to be tragic. I don't know if the Mimic gets through the Holy Avenger. That was a great setup, though, by SSP to take the shift on 6 and go for the Mimic as well as the Holy Avenger. We see the Holy Avenger out of both of them. So is it enough? Is it enough? The Holy Avenger on SSP looking like it is indeed enough. It targeted down the Mimic and got a pretty easy kill. An Aviator holding the double Brute. So I think Offma and Lucy did a good job there of trying to go for a long save. It realistically was a good attempt. If SSP had not gone for the shift, I don't think that is doable, right? The Holy Avenger shift is just absolutely nuts for him, as well as now he can full treasure hunt, right? So he is going to be 200 and some under here. Absolutely crazy under. He doesn't treasure hunt all. Treasure hunts all but one. Okay. I think this is still a good play. Even if you leak small at this point, right? Pro leak, you're not going to be too far behind, and your teammate now has a Butcher on his Holy Avenger, right? They now have both shown Holy Avenger Butcher. If I am Offma and Lucy, I am calling up Lisk and Jules, and I am asking them why SSP and Aviator have not been banned. Because it is absolutely disgusting to see the setup of double healing Holy Avengers. That being said, SSP died. So, you know, maybe I was a little bit overzealous by saying calling up Lisk and Jules. Maybe they should write a strongly worded letter. Something of the sort. I think SSP got a little greedy with the double treasure hunt. Only 130 under. You'd think he would hold here, but if you look at a lot of his value, the Windhawk's dead value, the Butcher's dead value, the Pack Rat and Looter are dead value, so you realistically only have Fire Elemental and Holy Avenger here. The only things that sustain and stay alive for an extended period of time. Not the end of the world, though, if I'm SSP and Aviator. You're still in a good position, right? You're still in a solid position overall in this game. Just definitely hurts a little bit more. You do see the Violet coming out now. Violet and double treasure hunt. I think it's honestly a fine situation. At this point, SSP is basically just treasure hunting every single wave. He's strong. I don't think he has much to worry about. Both SSP and Aviator have quite a high Mythium reserve as well. So while that leak hurt them last, and it gave Offma and Lucy a good bit of gold, it only gave them, you know, 68 or so. I don't know if we can check here if they've leaked earlier. A little bit of leaks here and there. So, you know, they maybe gained 60 gold, 55 or so gold. So it's not like it's the end of the world. At the end of the day, it just kind of hurts SSP in terms of his overall value gain. You know, he leaked 80 gold total. So not a huge deal. We do see a snail coming out of Aviator. I assume this is just to get something here. An egg down. Interesting. So he's going for the egg play here. I don't know. Oh no, that egg was dropped last. My apologies, I missed that. So he goes for the head chef here. This egg is ballsy by Aviator, but it makes sense, I think, right? If you look at the build of Aviator, you don't have much of a weakness on these next two waves, right? Of 9 and 10. When you get sent on 7 and 8, right? You're sitting in a pretty good spot. You've got good units for 10, realistically. Yeah, free egg. We do see lizards coming out here. The fake lizard army. The fake lizard army into what I'd assume is probably a creditor out of SSP and Aviator. But we'll kind of see what happens here. Aviator's pretty close to value here, so he very well could full cred if he wanted to. I think he's in a pretty good spot overall. We'll kind of see. We see creditor out of Aviator. That's kind of what I anticipated, right? When you see something like a full egg, you really can kind of go whatever you want. I'm interested to see, does SSP take taxed allowance here? He does also creditor himself. Okay, so he does creditor himself. So I'm anticipating that SSP will creditor now on wave 12 and 13, right? 12 and 13, you should be basically good to go on cred because of the fact that you've got pretty overall strong role on the next handful of waves. Aviator getting the Creditor out here. I anticipate Aviator probably dropping an egg next. If I had to make any calls, Aviator drops egg next, just because he's good on value overall. Someone in chat did mention, did Aviator have Fire Archer? I think Aviator at one point did have a Fire Archer. I think he sold it for the Holy Avenger drop. So let's see here, out of Aviator and SSP, what do they do? Aviator is going to go with a Disciple here and full cred. I think that's probably a good play. Aviator pretty under overall. Not Aviator, SSP pretty under overall. Gonna take cred here, but also just a slight creditor. If I do look at the value here, he's gonna miss out on 3. So he's missing out on 23 gold. So he's missing out on about 11 gold overall from the creditor. He does get some gold from it here, so we'll kind of see what happens. I don't think Aviator or SSP really has much to worry about on 13. So I think you'll probably see something like a Holy Avenger upgrade out of Aviator here. With the creditor, he's looking pretty good. That being said, look at their income at this point, man. SSP and Aviator have absolutely insane Mythium reserves and have not sent in a numerous amount of waves. We do see Lucy and Aphma both took loan, right? So their values are pretty good, but because of that, their income also kind of falters, right? So we do see Aphma and Lucy sending income here. Let's see how it goes. We do see the Holy Avenger. Oh, maybe not. Okay, we do see the Holy Avenger. I was confused on what he was doing there. SSP quite under here. Aviator telling him to go for the Head Chef instead. So we do see Aviator kind of explaining things to SSP. That's one thing people kind of mentioned in chat, as they anticipated Aviator kind of running, I don't want to say running the show, but giving tips and tricks, right? Aviator is a very solid player, and I think even someone of SSP's caliber can learn a thing or two from what Aviator has to say some games. It's always neat to see how that kind of plays out. SSP and Aviator both holding pretty easily at this point. What do you do if you're Aphma and Lucy, right? You almost just have to keep income sending. There's almost a 700 Mythium being sent to you on wave 14. We see triple Ogre out of SSP. We see Ogre and Auras in the Pack, Mole, and Hermit of Aviator. The King Ups out of Aphma and Lucy. I don't know if it's enough. It looks like both Aphma and Lucy built for wave 13 to an extent. But I don't know if there's any chance they hold a 660 and a 720. Oh my goodness. That's just massive. Positive here, both the Mole and the Pack were both aggroed early on Lucy's wave. But it doesn't look good. I will say Aphma and Lucy held better than I anticipated. Let's see here. Gonna put him down pretty low. Is it going to be a kill shot though, right? SSP and Aviator did save for an extended period of time to get this, though they did force loan. They got creditor. So Offma and Lucy being at almost 3,000 value prior to the wave starting are going to be just slightly under here. That being said, Aviator and SSP don't have any pressure on them, right? They were sent almost every single wave. They don't have much worry. I don't think that they have really much to worry about now in the next 2 waves. They know Offma and Lucy have no workers. They know that they can kind of do whatever they want to do. Alright, so no sends coming across the board. I don't think that is surprising for anybody. If I'm Offma and I'm Lucy, I want to try to go on something like 17 or 18 into SSP and Aviator. But with the egg coming down here, Aviator's kind of saying, what are you going to do? You're going to send me next? You're going to try to pop my egg? Or am I just going to get free value? Right? You can kind of just do whatever you want with some of those setups, right? I guess the egg was dropped on 14 for all intents and purposes. So, I mean, it's just the thing. What do you do? What do you do? Are you going to send me? Are you going to try to break my egg on 15? Are you going to let me hold? We know you have no workers. We know you have no Mythium. What are you doing? Aviator pushing to 32 here because he has an egg down. I mean, what does he need to worry about? He's going to drop another egg here on 16. I don't see any weak waves really right now out of SSP and Aviator. Aviator having eggs just gives him so much value. He can kind of do whatever the heck he wants. It does look like Lucy and Offma are building for 17 at this point, which I don't think is a bad play. You don't think they're going to go 16, do you, right? They know they're safe on 16. The Mythium counts were decent. We do see the send out of SSP here, so they are going on 17, which I don't think is a bad idea. Realistically, at the end of the day, a lot of Offma's setup is not super great here. Leviathan loses a lot of value on 17 because it doesn't get damage on the extra. Doesn't get extra damage on the spell hit, right? It has that extra hit on the ground units. And that in itself is a lot of Leviathan's damage for Pierce. So I think that makes a lot of sense that they want to send here into him. He is 550 under, and Lucy's 705 under. Aviator and SSP are actually quite under themselves. I don't think there's enough value out of Offma and Lucy's sends to actually leak Aviator and SSP, but we'll kind of see what happens here. This Radiant Halo doing a decent job of containing Split for a moment, but doesn't look like it's enough to actually leak either of them. Let's move over here now to FC, and it does not look like Lucy is holding here, and Offma is potentially going to hold very small, leak very small. Excuse me. That being said, Aviator held. The eggs coming in just to be too much value, and that does look like the game. Double 4 eyes and a shaman getting through to King with only 28% King health. I don't think they win this. The King, I don't think King is strong enough. 4v4 King, maybe. 2v2 King, not a chance. GG's. Well, that went about as I expected. SSP and Lucy, SSP and Aviator getting out ahead in this game with these rolls, right? And you can't do much. The long save forever. I mean, you can kind of see what ends up happening, right? On wave 10, you save. You have the save, right? They take loan, and their values catapult up ahead, right? But inevitably, the extra Mythium and the lack of income from the loan starts to catapult the other way. And once the send on, I believe it was 14, comes through, it's just a skyrocket here for SSP and Aviator. So I think that went about as good as you can imagine for SSP. Oh, sorry. Excuse me, guys. SSP and Aviator. I think Offma and Lucy had a chance in that game. I think they had actually quite a good chance in that game had it went just a little bit differently in that series, I should say. A little bit differently on game 1. Game 2, I don't fault Offma and Lucy. I think that was a issue of build being too strong rather than anything else. Right? I think that's really what it comes down to, the build being too strong. After that, it's kind of just a situation of if you don't win game 1 when you're that far ahead, you know, in a best of 2 situation, usually teams of equal skill will go 1-1, right? And because of that, it just ended up going pear-shaped.